Hello and welcome to Circle Time, the Early Years podcast. I'm Glenn Denny. Now, I'm really excited. I've been trying to get this guy on the podcast for absolutely ages. We've worked together for such a while, and it was probably one of the best times of my career that I've worked with him. If you want to know about outdoors and outdoor learning and outdoor play, most importantly, you need to talk to this guy. Welcome to Circle Time, Cameron Sprague.
Well, thank you very much, Glenn. I was laughing when you were saying there about trying to get me on, and I was going to say I'm the busiest man in early years, but I was just talking to you about what you're doing, so I don't think I can take that title. But
Oh, I think you can. I think you
yeah,
can.
but I'm glad that it's finally happening, and real pleasure to be here.
No, absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, kind of like your whole ethos is, I mean, if anyone has ever met Cameron, you'll know that, he has, you have dreams, put it this way, you have dreams and you make these dreams a reality when it comes to giving children the experience and the opportunity to really be immersed in the outdoor world. Would you say that's a fair description?
I think it's a kind description for sure, and and I guess it's something I strive for every day in my work, and I feel very privileged to work for a company like Stramash and with people that kind of share those same visions. But like you were saying before, like outdoor play, is what I'm all about. But I'm all about it because it's a biological imperative that children need, and that what we're doing is providing the environment, hopefully culturally as a staff team, but also physically for children to absolutely thrive. And I'm not going to give up on those dreams and trying to make it the best that it can be. And I'm lucky to have a lot of people that work with me that are fighting for the same thing, and was privileged to have you working with me fighting for the same thing until you moved down south.
I know. Sorry, I moved. Need to move Stramash down here. You do know that.
Yeah.
But it's true. Yeah, I mean, I think Stramash. When I was working there, it's like you kind of become immersed in the Stramash world in a way, and that's not a bad thing because it gives to me, being part of it, it gave children the opportunity to actually play as children and to explore and to develop without boundaries almost. I mean, yes, we have certain like physical boundaries like fencing to keep them safe, but there's the boundaries where that are unlimited, such as well, yes, that tree's there, go and climb it. It was that exciting bit where children could be children.
Yeah, and I think I'm not the only one that's a big fan of the John Bowlby quote of daring ventures can only happen from secure bases. And I think that summarizes Stramash perfectly. We have staff teams that put a lot of effort and energy into caring for and loving the children that come through our gates every day, but also trusting their capabilities because we know them really well, and allow them to go off and have those adventures. And they are climbing trees and being supported around fires and using tools and doing lots of things that I think would make a lot of people nervous. And I guess what we challenge is, are they actually unsafe? Because we don't think so, because we know their capabilities, or is it just your personal perception of you think it's unsafe, and that's a fine balance as adults that we need to keep of that, making sure we are keeping them safe, but also we're not holding them back.
I think you kind of summed it up there. It's like it's about knowing the children, and that's kind of the root of everything in childcare. Don't underestimate a child with your own preconception of what a child should be doing. It's understand that child and their capabilities and meet them there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I was talking to you just before we started recording and saying that all our settings are above national standard in Scotland now, which we're really proud of. But we're very good for our care and support of children, our environments, and for our staff teams across. So we have, really competent and capable staff that are taking really good care of these kids and putting them in positions to succeed. And that's because they put the time and energy into knowing them and they care about them. And that all that lets the magic happen.
Definitely. I think that's the important thing as well with Stramash, and it's getting the right staff. And I've found as well, recruiting staff, I'd often find it's easier to get somebody that's got a passion for outdoors but isn't qualified in childcare and bring them in and train them up in childcare because that bit you can learn, but you've got to have a passion for being outside and to being immersed in the natural world and what it can do and what children can do with it.
I completely agree. I think if you've been in a more indoor based setting and maybe with a different ethos, it's much harder to make the switch unless you're the got that bug and caught the passion for it than potentially someone that has that outdoors background that we need to then train up in the early years. So we do invest in people and bring them on. And the other thing we do is the apprenticeship program, which I'm very passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've in the last 7 months with my colleague Josh moved on to taking leadership of all of Stramash, but I was able to leave my nursery in Fort William because I was able to pass it on to Lindsay, who came as an apprentice, and she's worked her way up. And I would I have trusted anyone else to take it on? Probably not. But I trust her because she's been born and raised in the same as the nursery, and she's the caretaker we need. And thankfully in Stramash, we're cultivating lots of caretakers of the
Mm-hmm.
nursery and the future of Stramash as well. So that's a really satisfying part of the job for me.
I think so. It's definitely one of the things when I joined Stramash was the culture of people that are there is that, nobody was afraid to get their hands dirty. You could see, I'm going to say a slight divide, maybe I'm not summing it up right, but you could see the ones that had kind of done their childcare training in an indoor setting. Some moved across easier than others, and I'm kind of talking about the site that I used to run. Some moved across easier than others, and it suited them, and it was fine. But I know with particularly the Fort William site, it's like everyone there was outdoors through and through, really. And same with Oban and that. But it's down to kind of like people's culture as well that they would come in and they bring another dimension to it. They bring their experiences of the outdoors with them and what they're interested in, and they'll bring that in. So it's that mix of people as well that make it really special.
Yeah, and that's what makes early years special, right? Like we're can have that mix of women and men working together. We have that mix of different ages working together. We have the I think like I have like the pleasure of having people that have art backgrounds or geography backgrounds or
Mm-hmm.
different backgrounds or the things that they all take to the work as well. Um, and that to me is what early years should be. Early years should be like this mixing pot of the world, showing kids this is how we should all live and be together, and it's okay for men to care for children and it's okay
Mm-hmm.
for women to get out the tools and do that, like it's all stuff that, we want to just be the norm in the world, but early years is that chance to just role model it and show it so that kids are seeing it from the youngest ages. And that to me is another thing that I'm really proud that we do.
100%. The other thing I always remember is seeing, having come from majority of my career being indoor settings, but I was always the one that was pushing, let's get outside, let's be outside, you know. But coming from there to Stramash, which is, let's face it, predominantly outdoors. There's occasional times when they're inside, but very, very little. But noticing the difference in the development of the children, and I'm not just talking about physical development, although I still have visions of this one child that we had when I was at Inverness, who was slightly developmentally delayed and was still a bit wobbly on his feet. And within a week, we were chasing him up a hill, and he was getting away from us because he was so fast. And I'm like, this is what it's about. But the confidence in children, their abilities to be independent, it all grew. I would say probably faster than an indoor setting. It was just the way it appeared to me. And I think that's the good thing about, giving children that trust that, we trust you to be able to go and do this, that children become more confident in their own abilities.
Yeah. And I think that goes to, adults put a perception of this is risky for a child to do and stop them from doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, Yeah, your example there. I have dozens of ones because I've been working for Stramash for over 11 years now. But like also it plays out like we've had the physical therapist locally anecdotally has said, when they first were working with some kids, they were like, oh my goodness, why are their calf muscles like rocks? And then they just had this like realization like, oh, this is what kids are supposed to look like. I'm just not used to seeing them like this. And
Hmm.
we've had so many successes where kids were maybe a bit delayed in walking or had those difficulties, and they're running, flying, climbing, jumping. And when you were talking, it made me think I interviewed Catherine Solly once, and
Mm.
she talked about like the riskiest thing you're going to do in your life is learn how to walk. You're going to bump, you're going to fall, you're going to hit your head, you're going to do all these things. As soon as you can do it, everyone says, all right, don't run, don't climb, don't move. Try to get you wrapped in that cotton wool and protect you. And rather, we should be having that mindset of like run faster, climb higher, be stronger.
Hmm.
Because we know all the research shows us that having that underlying physical body is what sets you up for life, for learning. And I think that's what we're trying to do. Like, not just slow down, run faster, climb higher. And that's every kid that comes through our gates. And that's because our staff know them at the level they need to be at that time. And
Yeah,
that's why they fly.
I'd say, I mean, it's 100%. It's like, we said it before, like knowing, like almost like the baseline, like you're doing your settle visits and everything else, and then you kind of know where the child is at. But it's also, I think, as well, it's having parents that understand what it's about, like understanding the fact that their child will come home head to foot covered in mud. And
Yeah.
I always used to joke with parents when I was doing like the show around visits and things like that. I say, please, if your child doesn't come home completely covered in mud, please tell me because we've done something wrong that day,
Yeah.
because that's what it's about. I mean, I was always the first one in a puddle as well. Like, didn't care. I will lead by example. Come on, let's jump in a puddle because we can, and we should, and let's be
Yeah.
physical.
Your
But
uniform's still soggy, even a couple years on now. So
oh yeah, I mean it's still trying to dry out now,
yeah,
but that's the thing. It's like it's children should be given those experiences and those opportunities to develop in so many different physical ways, and that's something that you can't do in an indoor classroom. You can't do that because what you're going to do, you're going to walk from table to table or whatever. You're going to sit down, you're going to stand up. Okay, that's a limited range of movements. Whereas outdoors, you've got hills, you've got banks, and like you're running, you're jumping, you're climbing. Most importantly, you're climbing as well, and you're using your upper body strength. And that's kind of the amazing thing about it is nothing's concrete. It's all to do with what's available there. We make I mean, I know at Fort William we make some absolutely amazing play structures. Nothing's shop bought as such, but it's like just it comes out of our imagination, and it's quite often it's child led as well, isn't it?
absolutely, it's co-designed for sure. And my well overused line was I was either brave or stupid when I was managing Fort William at the start, because I got this two-acre grass field, and I just was like, let's have it as much as possible come from the kids. And
Mhm.
and that is a mix of adults observing children and then making decisions, but also children being actively involved in the process, or talking about it. And I think, yeah, probably what's changed is there's a clearer vision of a master plan, and
Mhm.
that we're working towards. Where in the beginning we just had 2 acres of stuff, so we're just like, oh, we'll just do this, we'll just do this, we'll just do this. And now it's much more focused. But that heart of children being involved, and the beauty of the semi-permanent play spaces that we design is that we're much better now at building them well. But when they ultimately reach the end of their shelf life, it's then an opportunity for the next set of children to
Mhm.
put thoughts and ideas on it, and then hopefully it's an upgrade rather than just replacing like for like. And the story of the field is definitely that. And that is more and more happening at all the Stramash sites, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you know, I've seen from like my early days before I actually joined Stramash when I realized it was like, yeah, I kind of want to work there. Coming down to do the messy maths training
Yeah.
there when
Yeah.
I was working at another nursery, and seeing the field as it was, and it was pretty much still an empty field. There was the yurts there, which we weren't allowed in that day.
No, not that day. Not
Not
that
that
day.
day. No, there's a story
Yeah.
there, but we're not going to tell it.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing the yurts there, and but it was the passion of the staff there to work with the children and to design it that, when I came back to working for Stramash a few years later, you're like, wow, okay, this is completely different. And even now, I know for a fact it won't be the same as when I was last there. It'll be
No.
utterly different again,
Yeah.
because it's just a constant evolution. Even my own site when I was at Inverness, that used to change around a lot. We'd move stuff in the woods, and the garden would change round, and we ended up with that. Is that massive tube still there? That massive tunnel thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Slide. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
still a slide. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, they're calling it the Bothy, so they just built this shelter in the woods that's almost done, and I found some reclaimed windows, so it's hopefully going to be like, well, I was talking to Josh before this, so he was saying the kids were in it yesterday reading stories, but we're hoping they can maybe do some outdoor naps in it potentially, and have another space to, get that little break from the rain and things.
Outdoor sleeping in the triangle den. I
Yeah.
remember doing
Yeah.
that. That was great. In fact, did we have a meeting one time? This podcast is now turning into us reminiscing about.
Yeah.
But that was it. I remember doing, like, I had a meeting with like all the seniors there, but I was doing sleep checks. So I was just like, I'm just going to stay here. It was like the joys of technology. I could sit and do that whilst I'm supervising children sleeping. But that was another important thing as well. Is it's not just influenced by our knowledge of the children, but it's also influenced by other kind of theorists and like other countries as well. So for you, what's one of your biggest kind of influences? I mean, that's probably going to be a really difficult question because
how long do we have? No, so I think the first person that comes to mind is Juliet Robertson, and Juliet came along. So I think it's interesting. So I have a bachelor's degree in outdoor education, and I studied in the States where I'm from, and I was in Vermont, and I was eligible for work study, and I'd run summer camps, and that's what I thought I was going to do. I was going to work with kids outdoors, running summer camps. That was going to be me. And then I had the work study, so I worked in the Child Development Center on campus, and that was my first experience working with 2 to 5 year olds. So I wasn't studying early years; I was just working with kids there, but I was studying outdoor education. So I think so many roots of outdoor education line up nicely with the best of early years education, so I think I was doing a lot of things intuitively, but Juliet came around, and I think Juliet, she just opened so many doors for me of like, oh, maybe look in here or talk to this person and connect. And, I think, I will feel the impact of her mentorship on the rest of my career, because she's done so much to open things for me. But, and I feel like Stramash has those echoes, and will always have them because of what Juliet did in these kind of early days to input and change. So there's so many. We're both nerds, aren't we, in terms of early years? And I like to read. I like to look into things. So my colleague Alistair Davidson, that worked for Stramash, he got me interested in Patrick Geddes, which really lined up with my view of outdoor education and childhood, and education should be in the head and the hands and the heart. So there's people like him, but then of course there's people like Maria Montessori and all, Froebel and all these kind of people. But I guess for me, I never want to just go into one set of theory. Like, I'm never going to be like, all right, I'm going full blast, Reggio, like that kind of thing, because I like reading things, processing it, and then taking the best from everyone. I would say the person that's probably influencing me the most at the minute is Darcia Narvaez, who's a lecturer from Notre Dame. And I had the privilege of being on Kindred World, which is an organization she's a part of that had an ambassador program over the summer. And Darcia taught the kind of material. And I think why it matters to me is because the more I've been working with children, the more I've been thinking our thinking needs to go back further and further and further.
Mm.
And what Darsha has done is researched all the bits that I'm into: nature connection and self-directed play and positive, welcoming climates for children, all these kind of things, and put it into one thing, which she calls the evolved nest. And it's all based on a kinship worldview of Indigenous people. And I think that's, for me, where I want to learn the lessons from to take my practice and hopefully the practice of Stramash of how can we live in peace with each other, but also peace with these others that we share the world with. Because,
Hmm.
I don't want Stramash just to be us chucking kids outdoors and doing outdoor learning, but actually how are we truly connecting with the world around us?
Yeah.
you know and that's a big part of my influence at the minute. And then there's so many, like, you were talking before about the outdoor experiences and the mobility and stuff, and I'm like, you just need to listen to Angela Hanscom talk for 20 minutes and you'll be sold for life on being outdoors with kids and stuff. So yeah, I think I'm very blessed to have had the opportunities to meet lots of people, but also I've been open to listening and looking and researching myself, and that's what impacts my practice every day.
I think so. But also, I mean, you're quite sought after yourself as well because of, what you've done. Like you say, you've been with Stramash for 11 or over 11 years now, and
Yeah.
you kind of built up a field from nothing, literally nothing. Um, and it's now like, it's spread to 4 nurseries. But, you know, I'll be honest and say that the golden thread that kind of held everything together with Stramash has been you and your enthusiasm and your passion for it. And that's kind of why you're sought after. And, you've delivered talks at various conferences and things as well, you know. And I think that's the important bit, is having people that are passionate about it, that are not afraid to stand up and say what is right for children as well, which I think is really important.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I am not afraid to stand up and share what I think. I'm No, not what I think, what I believe in and what I'm passionate
Hmm.
about. Because at the end of the day, what I want is, I want all children outdoors because I know it's the best thing for them. So every training session and talk that, gets another kid outdoors, like, that's why I'm doing it. Just, the spread the word and the love and all the rest of it. And I guess, yeah, I wouldn't know if I'm sought after, but people are interested at times because, yeah, Fort William it's not a completely unique story, but it's a story for many that is hard to wrap their head around, of like a 2 acre grass field
Mm.
that is completely different now. And um, the Google car drove by our car park last week, so we kind of went on Google Earth, and you can go on Google Earth and you can see like what the field looked like 4 years before we started, and it was just grass. And then you can see it like 2 years in, and then 4 years in, and now you'll be able to see it. What you won't be able to see it because the trees are so high you can't even look in now. But
Yeah.
it was really interesting, like having that reminiscing as well of the site and where it's come from. And yeah, the things I'm proud of is, the mindset we've had of, like, the Maya Angelou quote, do the best you can until you know better. When you know better, do better. And, we've never settled. We've done what can we do right now, and
Hmm.
then had those clear visions and goals for the children of like, what can we do to get better? And the site has evolved in that way, and the staff team evolved in that way and have the skills. And yeah, it is, Fort William, and now my wider stewardship of Stramash with Josh is, I'm really proud of how our sites develop and our teams develop and improve all the time. And the beauty of planting a tree is you're not planning for tomorrow, you're planning for 40 years. Like, it's, or 50 years or 100 years or 150 years, depending on what kind of tree you're planting. And I
Mm.
have stuff that I planted 10 years ago that's now just paying off now, and the vision. And that's really exciting. And it's exciting that I have these relationships with children for, however hundreds of children have come through in the last 11 years. But I've also got relationships with the 5,000 trees and all the plants and everything else that we planted and done on the site, because I've been there since they were seedlings as well, and
Yeah.
that's a real honor, and it's amazing seeing them grow up too. So yeah, it has been a special journey. And but what I hope by sharing the story is that it doesn't have to be just a story of Fort William, that other places can feel empowered to say, what can we do just now, and then work towards bigger things in the future.
I know it's difficult for some settings. I know I work with some that are just desperate to do the kinds of things that you do, but kind of limited by their environment as well, I suppose. And I think it takes a collective number of voices to say, look, we're going to make the changes and this is what we want to do. And I think, it takes one person with like the ideas, but then it takes a whole collective team of people to kind of push those ideas forward, doesn't it? It can never really be just one person. It that's difficult to do. That's tiring, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, culture, and you said it before, like in the session of culture, and culture is everything, and I think like Stramash is in a really good place because we've been working really hard to not just be nurseries that are disconnected in different places, but collaborating and working together, and that's really exciting to see where we're getting for potential. But culture individually as a team is everything, because if you
Hmm.
have one person that is fighting against everything, that can impact everything that you're doing. You need all boots marching in the same direction, and
Hmm.
that takes time. And I think you have to be patient and you have to bring people with you. And especially with the risky play kind of stuff, if one person is out of loop with everyone else is doing, that's when I would get nervous as someone coming in. And if I was consulting with your nursery doing training, because I was like, that's when things fall down. Because if a kid is been working with you for 3 months of like, all right, how do I climb this tree? How do I do this? And you're coaching and role modeling and they're building the
Hmm.
skills to be safe. And then I come along and just pick them up and put them 6 feet in the tree. Like that's when accidents happen,
Oh yeah.
and or the other side of it is they've been climbing this tree and doing this, and then I come along and say you can't do that and take them down. Then you've knocked their confidence back and all the rest of it.
Hmm.
So it does need to be a whole team approach, and sometimes you have to go slower than you want because you need to make sure you're taking everybody where they are. And yeah, that's maybe something I've had to learn and be patient
I was
with.
going to
But
say you and me both on that
yeah,
one.
but but it's all about the end goal, right? It's all about getting the best things for the kids. And yeah, I see a child climb something that's like 10 feet tall, and I think my initial is like, that was okay, good, they're good, there's tops and stuff, but I go instantly to, all right, now how am I going to challenge them next? What do I need to do to make them go
Hmm.
higher? Where I think most people would look at them and say, all right, how the heck do I get them on the ground as soon as possible? And but I don't want to hold kids back. We got to keep pushing them forward. We don't want to hold anyone's capabilities back.
No, exactly. And it was like we were saying right at the beginning, it's like the trust for the child. You know, we're expecting children to trust us, but we also need to trust them, which is hugely important if we're going to let them develop as confident individuals. And like you say, that child will trust him to climb up 10 feet, and get themselves back down again, which was the important lesson. Is it's not about us putting them 10 feet up and then bringing them 10 foot back down. They've got to do it themselves, and we've got to give them that trust and that encouragement and that support.
Yeah. And and that support can be just sitting there coaching them through it and keeping that calm voice and letting them know they can do it and all the rest of it. And the other times the voice will be the one that's frustrating them because you're like, no, I'm not going to pick you up and put you into those swings because I want you to know you're safe to do it. So you got to get yourself in the swing. How are you
Mhm.
going to do it? What are you going to use? And, children will naturally get frustrated with that, but it's not wrong in life to fail. Like, we need to learn to fail, but we need to learn how to pick ourselves up and deal with
Mhm.
it. And you only do that through experience. If we do every single thing for them or if we make them afraid of the world, that is how they're going to live. So that's not what I'm interested in for kids coming here. I want them to take the world with both their hands and just, absolutely thrive and flourish. And we got to give them the ingredients in their life so that they're able to do that.
I think that's it. I mean, you know, it is a big, scary world if we let it happen. But if we're giving children the trust and then we're building their confidence and, giving them an attitude where they know not everything's going to work for them straight away and they've got to work hard and they've got to try, then that's how they're going to thrive in this big, scary world out there because they know that, yeah, they're going to get knocked back, but they've got to get up and try again.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's you talked before about like the self builds and all that, but we want them open ended because we want them to be creative and we want them using loose parts so they can problem solve and figure things out for themselves. And
Mhm.
I mean, I've had kids turn shopping baskets into pulleys, and turn barriers into pirate ships and airplanes and all that. And I love it. I love their
Mhm.
creativity and their imagination, but they have the formula is there for all those things to happen, both in terms of the physical environment and the cultural environment. And that's what makes all the difference.
That's it. We're almost giving them the ingredients to kind of build whatever is in their head. I mean, I remember one time the garden being absolutely covered in all the loose parts. And I had some staff going, "Do you think we should just get them to tidy up?" And I'm like, "No, they've got a plan. We need to stand back and let them just get on with this plan." I had no idea what the plan actually was, but they did, and that was the important thing. But
Yeah.
it was just interesting watching them as they decided where they were going to put the wheels or the planks or, the shopping baskets or whatever. It was just because they knew and felt confident that they could do that. They had the space and they had the time and they had, I'm going to say it, the permission. We gave them the permission to go and do that. That was really important for them.
Yeah, it is. And it's everything for them to know that they have that. And, the truth is that more and more children are arriving at nursery that don't know how to play because they haven't had that permission or the opportunities, or maybe even that's like an unfair way to frame it. They might just have had parents that who are wanting nothing but their best interests, but they are scheduling every minute of their life, and
Mm-hmm.
they're taking them to this group, that group, this group, and all those things. But you only have to listen to Peter Gray for 20 minutes to know
Mm-hmm.
why that is something where we're holding children back too. And getting bored is important. Like you learn to make games and be creative and do things. And so often we don't allow children to do that, or we just shove a device in front of them so they're not bored anymore, and those kind of things. And um, it's not to their service that we're doing it; it's a disservice that we're doing those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, time has crept up on us. I can't believe that conversation has flown by so quick, but I know it could be a lot longer, but I'm going to say a massive thank you for coming on to the podcast. It's just been brilliant to catch up and just reminisce, but also remind myself why I do what I do as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being patient with me and waiting for me, and also for having me. So yeah, I've enjoyed the conversation, and it's been nice to catch up too.
Absolutely brilliant. Cameron Sprague, thank you.
No worries. Thank you.